circuit itself, it's a beautiful circuit, probably the most picturesque in the country. There's no bad corners at Oulton Park. Everyone's is good in its own way.
And it is like driving on the road, and if you're a believer in road racing, then this epitomises road racing in a way that no other circuit does in this country, I think.
But it's a really testing circuit. It's narrow, but it brings all the challenges out. If you can race at Oulton, you can race anywhere.
Often, one of my favourite viewing spots is on the inside of Lodge Corner. And if you look down through Deer Leap, there's a large chestnut tree on the right-hand side. And I've thought many times how many world champions on 2 wheels and 4 wheels have driven under that tree. I'm Bob Jones. I first came to Oulton Park in 1953, 71 years ago. I heard from my great uncle that they wanted to clear up some old buildings on the circuit. We came, and at the same time they were literally bulldozing out the outline of the original circuit. That's my first memory, really, of Oulton Park.
Well, the heritage really goes back to the 1950s when motor racing first started at Oulton Park. And I was reading an article that said for the first Gold Cup, we had 40,000 people turn up.
Whenever somebody mentions the Oulton Park Gold Cup, it just brings back memories. You know, I can just remember being here with lots of with big crowds.
It was rammed. The place was absolutely rammed. The coach road, you couldn't come down the coach road. You couldn't move. In the paddock, you couldn't move. Lodge stand should have been falling down. There were so many people in it. It was just, the place was absolutely packed.
You can sit on the bank over at Knickerbrook. You can spend all day there, as some hardy folk do. And see a large part of the circuit, which for a circuit sort of verging on 3 miles in length, it's pretty neat.
Now, Oulton Park is a big place, but 40,000 people in this space would have been absolutely mind-boggling. And I've seen some photographs of it, people standing on the bank and standing absolutely everywhere that they could do just to get a closer look at the racing cars going past.
And I've grown up with the Gold Cup because it was always the big meeting. I made sure, even though I was running my own business and you never have any time at all, it sounds silly, living locally, but you always made time to come to the old Gold Cup because you knew you would meet interesting people. And not only drivers, but just mechanics and people, all the people associated with it.
There were so many people that you opened the programme and you were looking for names. My hero, Graham Hill, he was always the one that I was rooting for, basically because my dad was a Jimmy Clark fan.
I remember seeing Graham Hill queuing up in the cafeteria behind everybody else.
just a sample photographs from the 71 one, and there's everybody there. Mike Halewood, Jean-Pierre Jallier, Chris Croft, Tony Trimmer, Brian Redmond, John Surtees, you know, and that accessibility obviously doesn't exist at Grand Prix, it doesn't exist anywhere now really.
My name is Phil Rainford. I'm from Altrincham near Manchester. I first came to Oulton Park in 1974 and I probably haven't left yet, so I'm still here. But yeah, 1974.
Your best memory of the Oulton Park Gold Cup?
I think for me, it was 74-75 and it was the big 5-litre Formula 5000 cars. And I can just remember the noise, the crowds, the colour. And when you were standing on the far side of the circuit, you could hear the cars leave the grid. And as they drove past you, the ground literally shook with the noise and the power of those cars.
I loved the Formula 5000s, just the noise that they made. And we'd never seen it. I remember coming to the first meeting here for the Formula 5000s, and we wandered around the paddock, and the old mechanic came out and fired up, put some stuff in the exhaust injectors on Mike Walker's car, I think it was. We stood there and he started it up, and I swear the ground shook. The noise was just unbelievable. And then we watched the race, and it was just, they must have been absolute beasts to drive.
In those days, you could do a victory lap. These days you don't do a victory lap or a lap of honour. And they used to give the Gold Cup to the driver, and he used to hold it aloft as he went round. And to see the Gold Cup shiny there, you know, going around the circuit with the driver holding aloft with a laurel wreath, driving the car, that's what stands out for me.
My name's Steve Caswell. Been a marshal at Oulton Park since 1988. My first recollections of the Gold Cup would have been Formula 3000s racing here. Like I say, the Gold Cup's always, you know, a special event. It's like, say, it's changed over the years from single-seaters to saloon cars, touring cars.
I'm afraid I'm a bit different from so many of the people here who love the single-seaters. I found the real joy was the saloon cars. On the first time when I came here, the saloon cars were very much the cars you saw on the road. That was it, the Sunbeam Rapiers, the Rileys and so on. But in about 1961, we saw the arrival of the Minis. Then we saw the first of the American cars, like behind me, the great Ford Galaxy. And then to cap it all and sort it all out, we had the Lotus Cortinas.
'68 Gold Cup, I would say, was probably the best, because that was virtually a Grand Prix field.
Not absolutely sure. We think the first time that we came here was 1956, and then we were here every year up until 1967. But because my dad was an avid Jim Clark fan, of course, Jimmy was killed in '68, and he never came to a meeting after that. So I missed the Ferraris, which to this day I bitterly regret, but I couldn't get here.
3 works Ferraris turning up in the muddy paddocks of Cheshire. You know, unbelievable, really.
They had 3 Ferraris here. Derek Bell, Jackie Hicks and Chris Amon. And Chris Amon took it because it was a non-championship race. To him, it was just an opportunity to have fun. And we were at Lodge, and he was just power sliding through Lodge, lap after lap after lap. And it was just things you never forget. In those days, there were probably 8 or 9 Grand Prix a season. So they used to have the Gold Cup. Sometimes they'd have the Spring Cup as well for Formula One cars. And then they'd have the Race of Champions or the International Trophy at Silverstone. Most of the Formula One teams were based in Britain anyway. That's why 68 was such a coup to get 3 Formula One Ferraris here. Was an amazing achievement.
When we stopped running F1 races in Britain of any sort of standard, it suddenly became, well, what can we do with the Gold Cup? It was a Thunder Sport event for a while. It was a touring car event. And I think its image at that point kind of became a little tarnished. It was struggling to survive. But now it's been turned into a historic meeting. That's exactly what it needed. It was in great danger of disappearing as an event. It was becoming just a footnote to a touring car race. We just happened to present the Gold Cup for one of the races. Yeah, but I think its evolution now as a historic meeting is guaranteed, hopefully, its legacy.
Without sounding overly sentimental about it, it is this nostalgia, and I think it's Oulton Park's contribution to be to allow the Gold Cup to be brought to life again, rather than just something that's just sat in a cupboard for people to look at and occasionally think, oh yes, I remember that trophy. It's something that's alive.
It's changed obviously in recent years, and the historic Gold Cup is probably as good a way as any of remembering the early days.
It's my local circuit. This place is in my blood, and it has been for 40 odd years, and it's the best time of year because I'm getting old now, and looking back is the best way of seeing things now. The modern cars, okay, they're great, but they don't do as much for me as those cars, and it makes you young again seeing these cars that you saw all those years ago back out on track.
I suppose it's people of my generation bringing their children and also possibly their grandchildren to these kind of events, because quite often you hear the conversations of spectators saying, well, when I was a lad, I saw these being raced by Graham Hill or Jackie Stewart or Jackie Ickx or Emerson Fittipaldi. So they're able to recapture a little bit of their childhood themselves by watching these cars, and they're able to bring that enthusiasm and that passion and send it down the family line, as it were, the same way that I would imagine that if you're a Manchester United supporter, then your family will be Manchester United supporters, and their children will be expected to be Manchester United supporters, and so on and so forth. It's no different.
And the Gold Cup really is very special. There's no question about that. And even the way it's evolved, it's still a very special place to come to.
It's what I know. It's my home circuit. I just have so many memories, sight and sound. We were talking about it before, that it was the only opportunity for most people in this area to see current Formula One drivers and the current cars.
I've been privileged to be able to watch Sir Stirling Moss actually racing a car here, way past his retirement. So I never saw him racing at his peak back in the late 50s and early 60s when he came to Oulton Park. However, he did do a little bit of historic racing at a Gold Cup meeting, and he also did a demonstration of the car that he won the 1961 Gold Cup with, which was a revolutionary car at the time, a four-wheel drive Formula One car. And he actually demonstrated around the circuit, and that to me was just the epitome of what the Gold Cup is just bringing these historic events back to life and allowing a new generation to share them. And as I said earlier, allowing another generation of people to be able to share them as well. And you can't buy that, you can't read about it in a book, but if you're here, it's something that's going to be with you for the rest of your life.